From the 22 News Plus studio, this is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of In Focus. I'm your host, Patrick Berry. It is an interesting year in the world of politics. It's 2026. Coming up this November, we have our midterm elections, which is always a lot of focus on our midterm elections. And by midterm, we mean middle of the presidential term. Every 4 years, the midterms come about. But this year, I think more so than ever, people and politicians are divided, which is why I'm so excited today to have in the studio from the Anthony Cignoli Associates organization, Evan Garber. He's one of their vice presidents, brilliant mind on politics. So, Evan, thank you very much for joining me. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
It is a weird time. And, again, I'm an outsider looking in. You're the insider. It seems as if people, constituents, general public are getting more and more separated, as similarly within our nationally elected individuals. I've had a number of instances here on the show to interview Massachusetts state senators and representatives. It doesn't seem like the division is on our state level, but much more so among the people and among the federal level. Am I right on that?
I think so. Part of that is at the state level here in Massachusetts. I mean, many of those state legislators you talk to are all Democrats. Here we have a Democratic supermajority in Massachusetts. I think on the national level, people are just so sick of the status quo, of the same things happening and happening again. And both parties have, with their messaging, have really made the case that we are the only option for America going forward. And I think that has led to the partisan divide.
But is that new? Is that we're the only party that's going to make this country better? Is that new, or has it sort of evolved in the last 15, 20, 30 years?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's new. I mean, we've had concerns going back to George Washington was concerned about partisan politics in America during the founding. But it's definitely evolved and gotten more acute in the past decade.
I have no substantiation to this, but my belief is that social media has exacerbated this division because the algorithm, if you read something that you're in support of a candidate, all of a sudden the algorithm just keeps feeding you that and feeding your belief along that line of thinking.
There's such echo chambers are created so easily on social media, and also a lot of outside advocates, people because the internet is so connected and it's so involved with politics. There's opinions from across the world affect people here, and I think that not even necessarily in ways that we've seen and it's been proven of like foreign interference in elections, but just general everyday people who have following on social media, and maybe they're from other countries that are stoking division.
And people who, like me, please, folks, do not follow me for political advice. People who have really no right to talk about politics.
Definitely.
All right, so let's bring it a little bit local. So this year's the midterm elections. The general election is in November. But across the country, each state's primaries are at different points throughout the year. When is Massachusetts primary?
Yeah, Massachusetts primary is September 1st.
So we've got some time.
Definitely have some time, but the races, they're off and going. Everything from Senate, for the federal Senate, to the governor election will be happening, down to local reps. And all 200 members of the Mass legislature are up for re-election. So that's on the state side. But yeah, the federal midterms, we have some interesting races here for that, and the primaries.
And some of those primaries are this spring on a federal level. I think Texas is in March or April or something.
Early voting is underway in Texas, and there's a huge amount of focus on that. Massive amounts of money being spent by both parties. Texas Democrats hope to flip the state there, and they've seen in the early voting numbers that they've never seen Democrats come out like this before in Texas.
Really? So that could be a predictor of things to come across the country.
It could be. We usually think of like Virginia as a bellwether kind of a state, and we saw that with their governor election. Democrat Abigail Spanberger, the now governor of Virginia, won there. So we may see some of these bellwether things happening, but as we saw with 2024, polling and these kind of traditional methods can be unpredictable still.
One of the things that I found fascinating leading up to this conversation was that historically, whomever is in the White House, the presidential party, that party usually loses in the midterm elections. I found that odd. I would have thought the majority of midterm elections would have supported the sitting president.
Yeah, I think Americans want to see change, and change can be slow, especially in the federal government, and especially as we've seen over the past 20 years, campaign promises get bigger and bigger, and kind of
Right.
Congress being able to deliver less and less. That kind of exacerbates the fact that the midterms are a referendum on the president's party, and we're definitely seeing that now. I mean, we saw with the State of the Union that the midterms were such a huge focus, and we see polling numbers now that Republicans aren't doing very well because the economy for everyday regular people is not doing very well, and those issues are really what's going to matter in the midterms.
And do you know the date of midterm elections? How many seats usually switch?
Yeah, so
and it's usually we're talking primarily the House.
Yeah, in the House, we've seen on average since around the World War II era, the average is 27 seats will flip from the president's party. So right now, the majority in the House is razor thin. It's only 4, so it's 218 to 214 right now. So historically speaking, it looks like there will be a change, but again, we won't know until Election Day.
Wow. We are up on our first commercial break. We've got plenty more to talk about when it comes to the midterm elections, so stay with us. We're back in just a minute.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry. This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Welcome back, everyone, to this edition of In Focus. I'm your host, Patrick Berry. Sitting across the desk from me today from Cignoli Associates is Evan Garber. Evan, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate your time. He's got the inside scoop on our conversation today, which is all about the midterm elections. I said to him during the break that we will have him back multiple times this year because it's a big year. It really is. I mean, the midterm elections are big all the time, right?
They are, because they could totally transform a presidential's term. Going into the second half, I mean, the majority of President Trump's second term is yet to happen,
right?
And what the results from these midterm elections will absolutely shape the rest of his legacy.
And his second half of if the Democrats take over, will virtually make him a lame duck president because he won't be able to get anything done.
Yeah,
right?
we saw that with President Obama. His after the Republicans took over. Then Majority Leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, was extremely effective at basically putting the president's agenda to a halt.
Wow.
So we could definitely see that again, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Democrats will take some plays from Mitch McConnell's playbook in halting policy.
So, understanding this, our federally elected representatives have a 2-year term. Our senators have a 6-year term. So who's up this year? Obviously, the representatives are all up for election, which is how many total?
It'll be
100, right?
Yeah, it's 435.
Wow. Okay. So all of those people are up for election. How many senators are up for election, if there are any at all?
About a third, and here in Massachusetts, we have Senator Ed Markey. He's up for his reelection.
Okay, so here in Massachusetts, Markey's up for election, but Elizabeth Warren is not.
Correct, and Markey has a challenger for the state primary with Congressman Seth Moulton. What will happen in all of these races where there's a primary challenger is the primary challenger will have to kind of introduce themselves to voters. Usually primary challengers aren't as well known as the incumbents. And especially, Congressman Moulton is known in Salem and from where he is and where he represents, but across the state, not so much. So you'll see him out a lot, kind of getting his name out there, reinventing himself possibly. to go against Edward Markey.
And he's a Democrat too. Moulton's a Democrat.
Correct. Yeah. So this will be decided in the primary, and then very likely whoever wins this primary will be the senator from Massachusetts.
Right. How likely is it that Moulton even has a chance?
We've seen sometimes an incumbent will fall to a challenger, but Senator Markey has just been one of the most popular senators in the country. He's known obviously across Massachusetts, but also nationwide. And that being said, there is about 30% of likely Democratic primary voters are undecided. Ed Markey leads in all of the polls right now, but that 30% could give
way early.
Could give Seth Moulton something to play with. And we'll see that if this race or any of the statewide races do become close, because none of them really are right now, but if they do, we'll definitely see a lot more campaigning happening in Western Mass, because think back to like Senator Scott Brown or Charlie Baker's second election. Those were kind of decided in the 413 and in the 508.
Really? Oh, interesting. Governor Healy is up for re-election this year too, right? And that's already
that's been money has been being spent. There's 3 Republican challengers.
3 Republican challengers.
Yeah, so they'll have their own primary, and it's been pretty ugly so far between the 3 of them. They're all trying to make the case of why they should be the one to go against Governor Healy for the general election. I think it's difficult. It's been difficult, especially when you have a crowded primary field like that, to differentiate yourself.
Right.
But that's what these campaigns are trying to do, and they all have a fairly spread cash kind of reserve happening. One of the Republican challengers has self-funded a lot. He has almost $6 million.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, and then others like Brian Shortsleeve and Mike Keneally are about at $1 million in the
Who's
bank.
the one with $6 million?
My oh gosh. Can't pronounce his name.
That's all right. Well, maybe that's why he's got $6 million, so he can get a name pronunciation campaign going. Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
But he's polling right now the lowest at around 27%.
Oh, funny. So money doesn't. Well, we're still early.
We're still early, but Mike Keneally and Brian Shortsleeves are pulling around 28%, and Maura Healy against all of them is almost at 60% among the general electorate. So there's a really wide margin there. But you may think that those 3 Republican challengers, they're going to have to capture the other challengers' votes when there is a primary decided.
I am a firm believer, especially here in Massachusetts, that I liked when Charlie Baker was governor, because you had a Republican governor, and we have a democratically run House and Senate. I think it offsets each other, so you're able to move things sort of middle of the road forward, I guess, if for lack of a better description. Whereas if you've got one party controlling everything, you're taking it, or whether you like it or not.
Right, and sometimes there's always a lot of back and forth in government, and we're seeing that now, even with Democrats controlling all aspects of government en masse. And I think maybe that's the reason why we're seeing so many ballot questions. If all 11 ballot questions that have made it so far in this process, they've gotten the over 70,000 signatures required. If they all get the final certification, it'll be the highest amount, a record-setting number that Massachusetts has seen.
Possibly 11.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think that goes from the issues that people are really thinking about, affordability.
That brings me. Yeah. So what are the issues people are thinking about?
Yeah. Right now it's the economy. And we saw that with the State of the Union last night. President Trump, for the first part of the speech, the first 25, 30 minutes or so, which is when the main audience is watching, you see a big drop off after about the first half hour, talked about the economy. So I think affordability in the economy is a huge issue across the country. Another national issue is immigration, which right now the president is polling the lowest he ever has in both the way that he's running the economy and on immigration. And I think looking at Massachusetts, housing prices and the cost of living crisis is really there too. And that's, we see there's this housing issue, and that's why maybe we see the rent control ballot question come up. And there's an example of, even though Like you said, it's all Democrats in Massachusetts. You have the governor and the mayor of Boston who are kind of opposed on the rent control issue.
Interesting. We are up on our second commercial break, so stay with us. Plenty more to talk about. We're back in a moment.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry. This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Welcome back, everyone, to this edition of In Focus. I'm your host, Patrick Berry. Sitting across the desk from me today, he is a political strategist, Evan Garber. He works with Tony Cignoli and his group. So, Evan, thank you for joining me. Really do appreciate you coming in, giving me some of your time to talk midterm elections.
Happy to be here.
When we talked about it a little bit ago about basically if the Democrats take over the federal House of Representatives, President Trump, his whole agenda comes to a screeching halt. So he really needs the next several months for the Republicans to push forward his agenda.
Yeah, and that really, I think, got kicked off at the State of the Union. What a success meant for President Trump last night was to shore up his own party, to show that he's still the Trump of 2016, of 2024, that, age or whatever else people are talking about hasn't caught up to him. And I think in some ways he did do that for his own party. In a lot of other ways, though, he galvanized Democrats and a lot of independents to say, okay, this isn't going to change. There was promises made about grocery bills coming down, about energy going down, and people really haven't felt that.
Right.
So I think going forward, it'll all be about affordability in the economy and spinning that. And what it will mean to us in Western Massachusetts, if the Democrats do take back the House, will mean that it's very, very, very likely that Congressman Neal and Congressman McGovern will retake their chairmanships of the House Ways and Means Committee and the House Rules Committee, which are really two of the most powerful chairmanships in the House.
Ways and Means, clearly. I've never heard of the House Rules Committee. What's that one? I've heard of it, but what do they do?
House Rules Committee basically sets up how the roadmap of how a bill can become a law and what rules and what committees it has to go through. And we've kind of seen with this.
That's not designated by our Constitution?
No. So the Constitution, it's a living document. It's kind of is broad and gray in some areas, I think purposefully. So the Rules Committee basically will guide that process, and it can be changed. We saw some, not to use this word because we've heard it a lot, but unprecedented changes to the Rules Committee during this past Congress. But I think kind of bringing it to Western Mass, we'll probably see things like, big news recently was like Springfield lost over $40 million in federal funding for their school department.
Right.
We probably won't see things like that happen if the Democrats
especially if Richie Neal's in charge of Ways and Means.
Exactly.
Which Ways and Means controls the purse strings.
Exactly.
So that's fascinating. That I didn't. It's funny thinking ahead to the midterms. So are Neal and McGovern? Are they the minority leads on those two?
Yeah, they're called the ranking members.
Okay, so they're ranking member on the minority side. Mm-hmm. So they would become the leads.
Yes, yeah. And, Congressman McGovern, it doesn't have a primary challenger this time around.
Okay.
So he's kind of open, has more time on his hand than maybe Congressman Neal does. But we've seen with McGovern, he's absolutely reinvented himself and re-energized himself in the past 2 years or so. He's come out huge on social media and kind of made a national name about being a congressman from Massachusetts who's standing against the president and trying to create a coalition of people around him.
So, again, my civics classes skills are really waning here. Are those the only two representatives from Massachusetts?
No, so
there are others on the eastern end of the state, right?
Yes, okay. Yeah. So those.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's like Congressman Seth Moulton who's running.
Oh, right.
So one thing with that race, if we could jump back to that, we've seen Ed Markey defend challenges before. This one, with Seth Moulton, like he ran for president in 2020. I think
Seth
a lot of
Moulton
people,
did?
yes, I think
President
a lot
of the United States.
Yeah, it was a short-lived campaign, but I think a lot of people kind of don't know about that. So he's really thought about running for things before, but this time it's got to be serious because if he loses this election, he can't go back to Congress. His seat will be So if he's senator or nothing, which before he dropped out of the presidential race and was able to go back to his seat.
So that's interesting. I did not know he ran for president. So he's got some major campaign skills. I mean, having tried to run a presidential campaign.
Yeah, I mean, it was about from April to August. His campaign was open in 2019, going into 2020. So he's been thinking about this for a while, and now kind of his campaign ideas about this generational change, which I think a lot of people are talking about. We saw that with President Biden and President Trump about older people in office. Maybe it's time to pass the torch. So we'll see how effective that message can be when we've seen Senator Markey, who really has time and time again been chosen by younger people as their champion, like we saw in past elections.
So we've got all of our representatives here in the state are up. The only one senator up is Markey.
Correct.
And then Governor Healy is up for re-election. Obviously, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll as well. Right.
And like Secretary of the Commonwealth Bill Galvin, he's up for again. Doubtful we'll see a challenge to that, but
he's been in office
for quite a while.
I was born.
Yeah. He's been the secretary for a long time, and I think some local races that we see. There's challenges happening locally. Rep. Pat Duffy in Holyoke, she is a challenger. That's a primary, so that'll be decided in September. Folks like Tom Hendrickson in Agawam is running for state rep. He's a city councilor. And then an interesting one is Rep. Blaze. She left office up in Franklin County, and one of her staffers and a few other people are running for that. So those will all be decided.
Do you know, will there be a special election for that, or is they just going to leave that seat open?
Yeah, so the Speaker of the Mass House decided that there won't be a special election, so it'll just be decided, which it could have gone either way. It was kind of in the middle of the term. But Rep. Blaze's staff has been doing an incredible job about keeping the lights on.
And no offense, please, to Representative Blaze, but Democrat in a democratically controlled state, her voting doesn't matter. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. You know what I mean? It's not like her vote's going to sway, one vote. Not just her one vote will sway.
Right. I think what it is just making sure that her constituents still have their voices heard and access to that. And another thing we talk about a lot with elections is endorsements. Do endorsements matter? Yeah. I think we see, since we're talking about primaries, in a primary, I think an endorsement carries a little more weight than in a general, because by the time it's the general, the Republicans are usually going to vote for the Republicans. Democrats will usually vote for Democrats. But we see in primaries it could shift things, and we see a lot of this new crop of kind of really involved mayors that have kind of made their way in. They're comfortable being mayor and then comfortable enough to lend endorsements. So we saw Mayor Garcia endorse Governor Healy, and maybe we'll see some other mayors that have followings like Mike Nicholson and Gardner make endorsements of things, and those can have some weight to them.
Very interesting. Our time is up. Evan, thank you so very much for joining me. Like I said, we'll have you back, or Tony in the studio, to talk more of elections as we lead up to the fall. Good seeing you.
Good to see you too, Pat. Thanks.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.